Hello children, structure of the atom, class 9, subject science, chapter 1 and this is the part 2. So in today's class, we will be studying something about matter. Okay, so what do we mean by matter? We have already studied this in your lower class, right children? Please do remember that. Yes, so anything that occupies space and has some mass is said to be matter. Okay, so it can be anything if it is occupying some space and if it is having some mass, then it is said to be matter. Okay, so examples: chair, table, book, pen, anything. Okay, you can take any example. If it is occupying some space and if it is having some mass, then it is said to be matter. Okay. So all matter was concluded to be made up of some particles called atom or Parmanu. Okay. So the other name for atom is Parmanu. Okay, so what do you understand by this? Which means matter is made up of small particles called as atoms. Okay, so just like the human body is made up of cells, matter is made up of atoms. Okay, and they are the small particles. It is not a big particle. Okay, so atom is nothing but a small particle. So let us study about the atom first. Okay, so John Dalton was the first person to contribute for the atom, for the discovery of atom. Okay, so it was given by John Dalton in the year 1803 as Dalton's atomic theory. Okay, so what is the theory called as? Dalton's atomic theory. And why it is called Dalton's atomic theory? Because it was proposed by John Dalton. So Dalton's atomic theory. So according to Dalton, so what all was his observations? So the first point is all matter is made up of small particles called atoms. So we have already studied this, right children? So all the matter is made up of small particles called as atoms. And second point is atom is invisible and is indivisible. So what do you mean by invisible? Invisible means you cannot see it through your naked eyes, which means it is not visible. And what do you mean by indivisible? Divisible means what? You can divide. Here it is indivisible, which means you cannot divide an atom. It is the smallest thing. Okay, so atom is invisible and is indivisible. Okay, you cannot see it and you cannot divide it. And the third point under Dalton's atomic theory is atoms can neither be created nor be destroyed. So what do you understand by this sentence? So you cannot create any atom or you cannot destroy any atom. Okay, so let me take an example. So when you burn a paper, you remain with the ash, right? So you cannot destroy completely. Okay, so that's why atoms can neither be created nor be destroyed. And the fourth point in this is atoms of an element are alike in all the aspects. So what do you understand by this? So let me take an example of sodium, and the symbol for sodium is Na. We have already studied this, right children? So you have got the periodic table, and in periodic table sodium is one of the elements, right? So atoms of an element are alike in all the aspects. So what do you understand by this is, so sodium is an element, right? So sodium element is made up of sodium atoms, right? It is not made up of any other atoms like chlorine atom or hydrogen atoms like that. If sodium is an element, then it is made up of only sodium atoms. Okay, and all those sodium atoms are same in all the aspects like shape, size, or it may be mass, like that. Okay, so in all the aspects, the atoms are similar, same in nature. Okay, so that is what is the fourth point according to John Dalton. That is why atoms of an element are alike in all the aspects. Okay, so let's see the fifth point. So atoms of different elements combine in fixed whole number ratio to form compounds. So what do you understand by this? Different elements. So let's take here in this example two elements. Carbon is an element and oxygen is an element. If you combine two or more elements, what happens? It gives rise to a compound, right? You cannot combine that however you want, right? It has to be in some fixed ratio, and that ratio should be in a whole number. Okay, it cannot be a fraction form. Okay, here in this example, so carbon is an element and oxygen is an element, right? So these two elements, if you combine in order to form carbon dioxide, then you have to mix it in the ratio 1:2. Okay, so if you mix this carbon and oxygen in the ratio 1:2, it gives rise to carbon dioxide. Okay, so if you combine this in some other ratio, say 2:3 or 3:4, it gives rise to some other compound, whereas you will not get the carbon dioxide. Okay, so here carbon is an element, oxygen is an element, whereas carbon dioxide is a compound. Okay, did you all get it, children? So there are few drawbacks in this Dalton's atomic theory. Okay, so according to Dalton, atom is indivisible, right? So we have already studied about this, which means you cannot divide an atom. But later on what happened? It was proved that atom can be subdivided into subatomic particles. Okay, so that is electron, proton and neutron. So other than this electron, proton and neutron, there are about 35 particles which are found. Whereas the basic fundamental particles of an atom are only these three, that is electron, proton and neutron. So this is one of the drawback of Dalton's atomic theory. So let's look at another drawback. So we have studied that atoms of same element can somehow differ from each other, like in terms of shape, size or mass, right? So this is one of the drawback. So what did Dalton say? That atoms of same element is similar in characters, right? So we have studied the example of sodium, right? Sodium is an element, whereas the atoms are sodium atoms, right? So all the sodium atoms are similar in size, shape, etc. Whereas that is said to be wrong. Here the atoms of same element can somehow differ from each other. Okay, it can be either in shape or it can be in size. It is differ from each other. So this is another drawback. Okay, so all these drawbacks led to the failure of Dalton's theory of atom or Dalton's atomic theory. Okay, so summary. So we have studied about the matter definition with examples, and we have studied about the atom, Dalton's atomic theory and the drawbacks of Dalton's atomic theory. So let's look at the questions. I want you all to write down this question as well as to write the answers for this. Okay, children. So first question is define matter. Second, state Dalton's atomic theory. Third question, write the drawbacks of Dalton's atomic theory. Fourth question, define atom. And fifth question, please think and then answer this question, children. So if an atom contains one electron and one proton, will it carry any charge or not? Okay. Please think, children. Electron means it carries a negative sign and proton is nothing but positive. So when -1 and +1 is there, so will it carry any charge or not? So please think and then answer this question. Okay. So thank you, children. So let's meet in next class.